Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samuel. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, much as we were expecting, RussiaGate made a very determined appearance this week, and you can see how this the sequence of events really culminated. We had the campaign against Elon Musk, waged in Europe, waged also here. Then we had the arrest of Pavel Durov in Paris 2 weeks ago. And all of this was driven by this, governmental campaigns in Europe and in the United States against media, against social media for the free exchange of ideas. And now it's come here in the United States with this indictments that came down this week. And basically it's, we'll go and get into the details in a bit, but it's very much a reprise of the previous iterations of RussiaGate. The claim is obviously that the Russians are determined to see Trump elected, one thing. Then they are tempering with the election mechanics, the election campaign, whatever, pouring in money, and essentially they're trying an influence operation in order to in order to get Trump elected. Now, the first thing one has to say, right, is that, well, and even if it's all true, so I mean, there's nothing illegal about any of that. There's nothing illegal about spending money. You give money to writers, journalists, reporters, whatever. I mean, even if you're Russia or France or Israel or whoever, there's nothing illegal about that. And which is, again, much as the earlier iterations of RussiaGate. But the more serious aspect of it is that this is clearly an attempt to chill speech and to frighten people into conformity. You want to go down this path of expressing views that we deem to be Russian talking points. We're going to come after you. We're going to look into who your associates were, where you received money, when you received payment. So there's a quite dark and sinister aspect to it. So,
well, I mean, particularly, George, since it's very specific. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but Turkey has a very, very powerful lobby in Washington, D.C. It's well paid. I've come across people that have worked for the law. We call it the lobby, but the supporting Turkey's aims on the international stage and even within the United States, like with trade and whatnot. There's no focus on that. Well, why would there be? Because it's not illegal. And then we go to the one that is obvious to everyone, and is the Israeli lobby, which, they boasted about throwing how much money around. Okay, maybe it all originates in the United States. Okay, fine. But it is for the support to the state of Israel. And, Japan has a lobby. France has a lobby. Germany has one, but it's not too good. They lost a pipeline. Georgia used to, until it got on the blacklist. What I'm just saying, George, Armenians, okay, it's all over the place. People splashing money, large and small sums, but then only certain countries can't do it, okay? And George is right; it creates a chilling effect, okay?
Exactly, and that's what
makes money is green, and it's the same color in everyone's hand.
Right, but what makes this particularly obnoxious is that there's no lobbying involved. Here, they're bringing in FARA, as they did, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, as they did in RussiaGate 1, but it isn't appropriate because no one was lobbying the government. It's not like anywhere that, the Russians were lobbying or anyone was lobbying on behalf of the Russian government or anything like that. This is just money that was allegedly transferred to internet influencers. And at least that's the gravamen of the charges.
Is
Well,
that
there's nothing
illegal?
illegal about any of that. I
There's
mean,
nothing illegal about
money.
that. I'm sorry, everyone, but a lot of people in media are paid by people to mimic a particular position. It's one thing. This morning on my program, I wanted to ask you, but we moved so quickly. George, have you seen any of the content that this money apparently paid for? Have you seen any of it? I haven't seen any of the.
This guy Tim Pool, I've seen a little bit of his work, and I have to say that I'm baffled. I'm completely baffled by the existence of Tim Pool and Benny Johnson and Dave Rubin. They have huge followings. They make an enormous amount of money, and to me, they don't seem to say anything very interesting. And even as personalities, they don't come across as particularly dynamic, exciting.
Well, you and I have talked about the secret sauce for years, okay? And when I find it, I'll send it over to you. Up until then, it's all
that's right.
It's all a matter of taste. We could spend hours talking about.
Well, that's right. It's a matter of taste, but
popular.
that's right. But let's say, when you look at someone like Alex Jones, you don't have to agree with Alex Jones when you say he that's a good product. What he does is a good product. You can see why people go to enjoy his show. They like his bravura personality, his various. I mean, he has a very interesting mind. He has all these fascinating kind of conspiracy theories, and I can say, yeah, okay, I can see why he has a huge following, but the rest. It's a baffle. But anyway, let me just show you a few things. First of all, this is the indictment that came down, and the here again. Do you remember RT again reared its head during the RussiaGate 1 when the intelligence community. I think analysis, the ICA that came out in January 2017, which had absolutely nothing, about the whole Trump-Russia collusion, except a kind of half of it was taken up with what RT was doing in the 2012 campaign, when it was just there. It was there, and it had shows, and some of those shows were quite critical of various aspects of American life. I mean, so
yeah, but a lot of those
substance of it.
Yeah, but most of the programs, if not all at that time, were a critique from the left.
Yes, that's right. And even 2016, they were not supporting Trump.
They were supporting Bernie.
Exactly. So here it says RT is a state-controlled media outlet funded and directed by the government, blah, blah. After Russia invaded in Ukraine, February 2022, RT was sanctioned, dropped by distributors, and ultimately forced to cease formal operations in the US, Canada, and so on. In response, RT created, in the words of its editor-in-chief, an entire empire of covert projects designed to shape public opinion in Western audiences. One of RT's covert projects is its funding and direction of Tennessee-based online content creation company. This is US company one, which we now know is Tenet Media.
Yeah, but George, that's a huge. First of all, I would like to see the entire context of where this is coming from. I mean, it looks
very much so. Very much so.
Very much cherry picking there, but we'll leave that aside. Okay, fine. But one of those covert projects is from RT. I don't know that.
No.
I don't know if that's true or not. Okay.
No, exactly. And that's really goes to the heart of this. Why should we believe anything the DOJ, FBI, CIA tell us? We know that they lied and lied and lied in RussiaGate 1. We know the absolute lies, that all things that they did, that whole FISA warrants against Carter Page, the way they manipulated the Steele dossier. We know how they set up George Papadopoulos, and all the rest of it. I mean, we know all of that, and how they kept it going, even though they knew that there was absolutely nothing to RussiaGate, but they just kept it going in order to destroy Trump. So why should we believe that somehow this money was coming through RT? That's your claim.
And everyone, look at the very top of this slide. The grand jury charges. Okay, when the grand jury is convened, there's no adversarial There's no pushback from what the prosecution is saying. Okay, keep that in mind.
Right.
See, George and I on the first slide are pushing back. There was no one in that room
Right.
to push back
No,
against it.
no, not at all. They just make these assertions, and we would like to know more. I'm not at all sure that this money originated from RT. That's just what they are alleging, just as they made a lot of allegations in the previous RussiaGate scandals, which turned out to be absolute duds, such as in RussiaGate 2, that the Hunter Biden laptop was a Russian disinformation operation. Total lie. And they knew it was a lie. They propagated that lie when they knew it was perfectly well it was a lie. So why should we believe this? And yeah, well, we'll talk about the media coverage as well. And then it says, over the past year, RT blah blah, the Kalashnikov, also known as Kostya. I love this. Well, yeah, I mean, Konstantin. I mean, I imagine his friends and relatives call him Kostya.
Okay, everyone, this sounds kind of sinister, but I'll give you an example in English. My name is Peter, but some people call me Pete.
Exactly.
Okay,
It's very sinister.
it's
Also
not
known
like
as
I have a code name. Okay, so Kostya is the nickname.
That's
And
right.
You hear Masha all the time. Well, that's a diminutive of Maria. Okay, it
Yeah.
happens in Russian a lot with a lot. Alexander turns into Sasha.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
but the way they say it sounds like it's their code name.
Yeah, exactly. Because he was known in intelligence circles as Kostya. And then Elena Afanasieva, also known as Lena. Yeah, Lena is the diminutive of Elena. I mean, that's the defendants have deployed nearly $10 million laundered through a network of foreign shell entities to covertly fund and direct U.S. Company One, which is, as we said, Tenet Media. Tenet Media. And it publishes English language videos on multiple social media channels, including TikTok, Instagram, X, YouTube, using multiple fake personas. Afanasieva edited, posted, and directed the posting by Tenet Media of hundreds of videos, many of the videos published by U.S. Company One. Now, right away say, so what? I mean, okay, so they're editing and publishing videos. Where's the problem there? And again, they're making it sound sinister, but again, I mean, if you think, let's say the BBC, I mean, there may well be all sorts of independent contractors who work for the BBC. BBC hires people. Hey, I want you to give us 10 documentaries a year about life in America. Yeah, that's kind of what they're doing. I mean, and these are all highly successful internet influencers, so they know how to make these influential videos.
Well, I mean, Bellingcat would fall into this category.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
They're paid to generate content that the payer desires. Okay,
That's
fine.
right. That's right. So let's say you believe, even if we believe what they say here, which I don't, there's nothing wrong. I mean, I don't get, where's the issue here? Then it says, I'll go back to that. Yeah, many of the videos published on U.S. Company One, this is Tenet Media, contain commentary on events and issues in the United States, such as immigration, inflation, and other topics related to domestic and foreign policy. While its views expressed in the videos are not uniform, the subject matter and content of the videos are often consistent with the government of Russia's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions in order to weaken U.S. opposition to core government of Russia interests, such as its ongoing war in Ukraine. Now, that's a mouthful that you've put in there with a lot of psychological speculation that you don't know about. You don't know this. How do you know that this is what they're doing? This is basically that this is somehow the interests of the Russian government. Again, Russia's got its plate full. It's got the problem in Ukraine. We've got the problems in Moldova. We can go through that. I mean, why would it be so preoccupied with all these issues of American life: immigration, inflation, domestic and foreign policy. But they're absolutely convinced that this is how Russia is. They spend day and night worrying about American problems and how Americans think about American problems.
I mean, let's just take the example of Ukraine, the easiest one for us. This company Tenant, as it's claimed, was, as this indictment claims, was involved in generating content to engender division on the issue of Ukraine. Well, fine, maybe that's true, but you don't need that division already exists on steroids,
right.
George. I mean,
Exactly.
It's not as if, like, wow, we're the only ones out here. We got this, we're in our lane of our own.
Right.
I mean, that's what I look at all day long, is dissent within the United States, within the Western world, against NATO's policy in Ukraine. I mean, you don't, it's a stone's throw away. If you're on YouTube, it's all over the place. I don't understand, why this company Tenant, if it does exist, if the story is true, what difference does it make?
No. And these people, they're all very well known, and
yes.
they have their own views. They're not going to be persuaded by this to somehow change their views. They already know what are their views. I mean, we may, we may not have the highest opinion of them, but then nonetheless, they already have a massive presence on the internet. So it's not like, you get somebody from the street and say, hey, why don't you just repeat these talking points for us, would you? No, I mean, there are already people with decided views on all these things, and they were just simply editing videos that they would already be producing. It's like they already produce these videos. And then he says, since publicly launching in or about November 2023, Tenet Media has posted nearly 2,000 videos that have garnered more than 16 million views on YouTube alone, which isn't really that much. I mean, when you think of
how Tucker Carlson can drop a video and he gets that before the day's out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's 2,000 videos since November 2023. 16 million on YouTube. I mean, that's not an exorbitant amount. Tenet Media never disclosed to its viewers that it was funded and directed by RT. Well, why should it? I mean, again, do we inquire about everybody, where they're getting funding from? I mean, you go to YouTube and something or other is showing some video or other. I need to know where the money is coming from.
Well, I would really be interested in the number of videos about COVID that was paid for by Big Pharma, but
yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Or anytime across all of the cable network, all of them. Okay, when they have retired generals, well, what arms manufacturer do you work for? They never tell you that. They never tell you that. Okay?
A very salient point, but never comes
well,
up.
And also funded, that remains to be determined. This is a claim. Okay, this is not a conclusion. This is not a verdict. And directed by, again, the same thing. That is not confirmed.
No.
Okay, at all. I mean, again, this is an indictment where there is no opposition, there is no pushback. I mean, this is like their wish list. This is like the best case scenario. There's
that's
any kind of pushback.
That's exactly right. And then it says, nor did U.S. company or the Tenet Media or its two founders and principal executives register with the Attorney General as an agent of a foreign principal as required by law. No, it's not required by law. That is not required by law. It's only if you're a lobbyist. Just because you're getting money from abroad, you don't necessarily have to register as a foreign agent. That's again, that's a lie to say that somehow, if you're lobbying the government, then you can be a FARA, but FARA doesn't apply here.
And one thing that's misunderstood about FARA, remarkably, most people have no idea this is true. FARA is a protection for someone. Okay, You're saying, I'm making a claim. I told you in advance. I made a public declaration that I am doing this on behalf of another entity, foreign entity. That is a protection because, I'm not a spy. I'm not doing this covertly. I made a claim. Okay. That's
right.
what, it's actually a protection
Yeah.
in a way.
No, yeah, exactly. You're and here you're not an agent of a foreign principal. You don't know what the deal is. You know, they were making videos. You don't know what, you know, that clearly these were videos already being produced by these people. So it's not like, well, you've got to go and you know, do these video 1, 2, 3, 4 as dictated by Marguerite Simonian. No, they're already producing the videos that Tim Pool and Benny Johnson were already making. So the suggestion they're an agent of a foreign principal is just simply untrue. Anyway, it says RT is a Russian state-funded blah blah. As RT's editor-in-chief has publicly acknowledged, since RT receives budget from the state, it must complete tasks given by the state. For nearly 2 days. And I just find this it must complete. You always kind of wonder when they put this in. I'd love to see the context, you know, like in what context did she say this? You know, but it must complete tasks given by the state. Anyway, for nearly 2 decades, RT has promoted the objectives of the government of Russia by publishing disinformation and propaganda. Again, that's just a matter of opinion. You could say that about any governmental broadcaster anywhere, you know, including NPR in the United States.
Yeah, well, leveraging its international network to amplify the government of Russia's message to foreign audiences. Well, I mean, if you look, I mean, I don't like to usually say it, but, you know, I kind of work there, okay? And what I see is it's a lot of Americans and Europeans arguing among themselves about what the governments in the West are doing.
Right.
Is remarkably enough, it's not really as much about Russia as I would like it to be.
Right.
And that's and what it is more of a platform for dissent. That's what it has evolved into, where people say, a French person say, I disagree with the government of Macron. That's what it ends up being. You have former intelligence officials, former FBI officials coming on, like my program, for example, saying, let me tell you how it really works, Peter, okay? It has actually nothing to do with Russia most of the time.
Right. No, that's right. And that's the thing that, you know, people come on because they don't get a platform in their own countries. So that's a, you know, well, hey, I mean, if the BBC or CNN had me on, you know, then, you know, probably I wouldn't go on Russia. That's what people often say. But they don't. And so that's why it becomes a platform for Western dissidents. You know, yeah, I mean, you know, if you were on BBC, then you already have a platform. You don't necessarily need this platform. That's what RT provides.
Yeah, and it's well known, and I've heard it many, many times, and it's always pleases me when I hear it. We don't do pre-interviews.
Right.
Okay, we're going to talk about, for example, Macron says that Europe may deploy troops to Ukraine. Okay, it's never made clear if it's French troops or other troops, but that's the peg where we hang the story. That's what we're going to talk about.
Right.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Well, I mean, George,
and it's a lot more.
So many times, George. Is there ever?
I never once. Never once. And that's really the thing, that when it comes to Western media, it doesn't at all work like that. If you don't toe the line, I mean, people always know suddenly your interview is cancelled at the last minute. When they get suspicious that you're going to say something that's
you go to a commercial break real quick.
Yeah, exactly. Or you know, the moderator interrupts you, and that's that. Or they suddenly, hey, we're gonna, you know, we've got a change of schedule. I'm sorry, but you know, we'll definitely have you on very shortly. Boom, and then you never hear it again. So there's you know, when it comes to Western media, the uniformity of view. I mean, how many times do you ever hear any dissenting voices on CNN, MSNBC, you know, or leave aside the election, but you know, on Russia, you had until Stephen Cohen. Stephen Cohen was the one kind of last gasp of any dissenting voice on CNN, and he gradually was also kind of pushed out. And you know, again, given his stature as a professor, other than Stephen Cohen, nobody else got to say anything different. And even then, and I think he pretty much Tucker Carlson was the only one who was towards the end was providing him with a platform.
Right. That's right. It's really interesting. I may have that my memory may not serve me correctly, but I think he had Stephen Cohen and Jimmy Dore on the same program.
There may be, yeah.
Think about that, everybody.
Right. Right. It says, for nearly 2 decades, RT has promoted the objectives of the government of Russia by publishing disinformation and propaganda, leveraging its international network to amplify the government of Russia's message to foreign audiences, and using its guise as a conventional media outlet to lend credibility to that message. Now, again, when you think of how small RT is compared to the global media giants, you think about the CNN, New York Times, the Washington Post, the BBC, Deutsche Welle, and here you are, you're kind of obsessed with the influence of RT, particularly as since 2022, I mean, it's just been banned from Europe, well, and no one even carries it. None of the cable operators in the US carry it anymore.
RT has an audience, and I have it on good authority. Its audience is growing around the world. But put the following into context. That audience is growing, but that's an audience that has to do the extra work to get it, okay? Yeah, exactly. VPNs and things like that, okay? Where you have to make an effort to get it, to watch it, okay? Right. It's not like, you walk into a hotel room or an airport where you have Brian Stelter, who returned to CNN, blathering about something. No, when you want to watch RT, you have to really want to watch it, okay? Right. And it actually may cost you to watch it.
Well, VPN costs money. I mean, you have to subscribe to VPN, yeah, absolutely. RT's propaganda is most obvious when it reports on matters of importance to the government of Russia, such as public opinion about Ukraine in the United States. When direct propaganda is not effective, however, RT has pursued malign influence campaigns. Look at this flowery language with those malign influence campaigns in countries opposed to its policies, including the United States, in an effort to sow domestic divisions and thereby weaken opposition to government of Russia's objectives.
It is well documented. We go all the way back to the Church Commission. The U.S. intelligence community has infiltrated American media, from top to bottom, left to right. I mean, this is embarrassing. Like, exactly. They're claiming, without evidence here so far, that RT is doing the bidding of the Russian government. Maybe it is. Okay, they haven't proven it here, but there's ample evidence, readily accessible, how the intelligence community has admittedly used media, it's used NGOs to get its message, to sow division in foreign countries. Russia is one of the biggest targets of this campaign. They're doing it to Russia every day, all the time. Okay.
Exactly. I mean, it's such an obvious point. And people just don't realize it. They read this and think, God, isn't it terrible what Russia does? And they say, okay, maybe Russia does do all that. But it pales in comparison with what the United States does. Do you know how much money the United States devotes to that, to precisely doing this propaganda work, I mean, you have the explicit propaganda like Radio Free Europe and Voice of America, but there's, as you talk about, the implicit propaganda, when they implant their CIA people within the media, and they've been doing it since the start of the Cold War. So oh my God! And here we are. We just have this free, independent media, and not at all like the malign influence of RT. And then he says, for example, in discussing RT's coverage of the United Kingdom's exit from the European Union in 2016, an RT journalist recalled to an academic researcher, quote, I asked my editor, what is RT's line for this Brexit? And he said, anything that causes chaos is RT's line. Well, that all sounds that all sounds highly believable. An RT journalist said this, and there have been a number of disgruntled RT journalists who have been over the years who have given interviews to Western media, because Western media lap this kind of thing up and say, "Oh, yeah, that's what I was told." From the top, anything that causes chaos is good.
Well, that's why it made it into this deposit, into this.
The indictment. The other thing is, notice how they effortlessly switch from the claim that the Russians want Trump elected to, well, the clear goal is to sow division. So it's like, when you can't go on arguing this claim that they want Trump elected, largely because none of these people is really a particularly Trump supporter. So, oh yeah, well, it's all because they want to sow division and chaos.
Well, I mean, why don't they take a victory lap? I mean, Joe Biden was inaugurated, so this malign propaganda doesn't work because it didn't change the result. I mean, they can't understand their own argument intuitively. Okay, then apparently it is not so effective because it didn't give the wanted outcome.
Yes, that's another thing that they never really explain that. Well, if Russia is so powerful, then how come they couldn't deliver the goods in 2020? So none of it makes sense, except that as we come before any election, you have to have this whole campaign about the malign influence, and we know that, and they know, as we'll talk about this in a minute, the Western media will just lap this up and say, we knew it was a covert operation involving conservative writers. We always knew it. And then he goes on. Yeah, where is it? Yeah. Okay, all right. So then we got the drop the network, but as RT itself has boasted, despite its post-March 2022 bans on broadcasting and lack of formal distribution channels in the US, Canada, and the European Union, the government continues to use RT to direct disinformation and propaganda at Western audiences. For example, on or about February the 25th, 2024, RT's editor-in-chief declared during a Russian television appearance that, quote, public opinion in the West is changing very rapidly and very cheerfully, due in part to RT.
Well, I mean, with all due respect to my boss, Margarita Sablagnon, these are media quotes. I mean, where's the content?
Well, exactly. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything.
You've taken
a few 6 words. What do 6 words just taken out of context mean? RT's editor-in-chief further explained that despite being banished everywhere on February the 25th, referring to the start of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, RT had built an enormous network, an entire empire of covert projects that is working with the public opinion, bringing truth to Western audiences. And then they say, as set forth below, Tenet Media is one of RT's covert projects.
I mean, what I can say there is that every editor-in-chief of a news outlet is going to trumpet their own
That's exactly right. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Right, of course. I mean, yeah. I mean, you talk up your own kids, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, and so this is again neither here nor there. This is like evidence free. Okay,
You're absolutely right.
We're doing a great job. We're okay.
But exactly. Every editor-in-chief in any media outlet said, "Hey, we're now more powerful and more influential than we've ever been."
Brian Stelter said that when I was coming back, said, "Oh no, CNN's ratings are up 30-40%." I mean, this is talking out of his sleeve. He has no idea what he's talking about. Okay.
That's right. But it's what's so important to keep in mind is that all of these people, the people who are putting this out, this RussiaGate out, they're the same people, and they haven't been held to account. 2016, 2020, you could say 2018, 2022, they were still involved in this. They've been doing this time and again, and they're never held to account. And as long as they're not going to be held to account, they can keep playing RussiaGate over and over again. You know, at that news conference given by Merrick Garland, there was Lisa Monaco sitting next to him. She's the Deputy Attorney General. She was at the heart of RussiaGate from the start. And Christopher Wray.
But see, George's point is that RussiaGate is responsibility free. Okay, they were never held to account for what the people that they destroyed in the 2016 election. The lies. Mark Zuckerberg has come out and basically asked for forgiveness about Hunter Biden's laptop, and no one is held account. So why don't we do it a third time? I mean, we're not going to get in trouble for it. Nobody's going to call us. Okay, no. but this comes from the liberal sphere here. I mean, these are supposed to be people that are interested in diversity and tolerance and all that. All they do is demonize. Okay, they're demonizing an entire population, much like they do the Palestinians. Okay, so I mean, don't look for virtue from these people. They're not interested in the truth. Okay, really, more than anything else. RussiaGate 3.0, as flimsy as it is an act of desperation.
Right, I think so too. I think so too. I think it's the Democrats, I think, sense that they're trouble. They have their own internal polling, and clearly this is an act of desperation.
Actually, if you look at it, again, George and I are always very skeptical of polls, but if we take them in a cumulative effect, number one, the campaign of joy is not so joyous right now. Battleground states is tighter than ever. The post-convention bump is over. Okay, and it's something I mentioned earlier. AOC came out attacking Jill Stein the same week when RussiaGate 3.0 is introduced. This is a multi-pronged attempt to recapture. And for the way they look at it, RussiaGate didn't hurt them, George. That's why, again, it's being employed. It didn't hurt us, might help us.
That's right. That's exactly right. All right, so here we have this this report from the Justice Department, and it says foreign actors are increasing their election influence activities as we approach November. In particular, Russia, Iran, and China are trying by some measure to exacerbate divisions in US society for their own benefit and see election periods as moments of vulnerability. These actors most likely judge that states and its democratic system appear weak, and by keeping the US government distracted with internal issues instead of pushing back on their hostile behavior in other parts of the world. So they say the foreign actors are increasing their election influence activities as we approach November.
There's no evidence that they have any influence whatsoever.
None at all.
Okay.
None.
And I posit to everyone here, this is assuming that Western democracies are weak. Why are they weak? Well, basically, because essentially now Western democracy is based on a lie. George and I cover every single major election. And one thing that is consistent all the way through, the democratic will is not brought to power.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right. To date, and this is to date, the IC, the intelligence community, has not observed any foreign actor seeking to interfere in the conduct of the 2024 elections. It's going to, what do they mean by the conduct? Then it says, the IC and our partners, however, continue to monitor foreign actors' influence efforts, seeking to uncover any activities that could enable election interference, especially cyber or physical disruptions of election infrastructure. And then the interagency elections, so Security Committee assesses they would be very difficult for a foreign actor to manipulate election processes at a large enough scale to impact the outcome of a federal election without detection by intelligence collection. So I mean that, I guess, hacking into the vote counting machines or something like that. Anyway, that seems to.
Well, they've kind of answered a question that you and I have been asking for a very long time. Is that, I guess, this, instead of looking at what happened to the Nord Stream pipeline, they're looking for election irregularities in the United States. That's where they're putting their energy, George.
That's right. That's right. And then instead of interference, the IC assessor's adversaries so far are focused on using information operations and propaganda to try to shape voter preferences or undermine confidence in the election. We continue to monitor adversaries' efforts to cast doubt on the electoral process or claim that they have interfered in the process when they have not actually done so. A tactic known as perception hacking.
Learn something every day.
Yeah, but again, speech, people have free speech, and there's you can have information operation that's in, you publish an article, you appear on a show, that's an information operation. There's nothing illegal about any of that. And yet they talk about it as if there's something sinister going on.
Well, I mean, like an example of this, something I've mentioned in the past is that we always hear about the vaunted G7, how important when the G7 says something, right, we all should stand up and listen. Well, I've pointed out, and many people in the global South have echoed this, or maybe I'm echoing them, to be fair, is that these are the former colonial powers. Right. Okay, why should we be listening to them? They don't know. They don't have our best interest in our. And I've been, see, that's a right, talking point. That's right, well, it's historically true.
Right. That's right. That's it, exactly. And then the IC continues to assess that Russia poses the most active foreign influence threat to this year's US elections. Russia is looking to amplify divisive rhetoric and influence election outcomes, which is consistent with Moscow's broader foreign policy goals of weakening the United States and undermining Washington's support for Ukraine.
Ukraine again. Here we
go. And again, it's like you're saying undermining. And I mean, you have elected representatives. I mean, they're the ones who are undermining it. But in any case, you basically have a majority. I mean, you got an administration and you've got an overwhelming majority in Congress that supports this policy. So how much undermining is it actually doing? It's not.
I mean, these same elected officials are undermining public opinion poll after another. This is an elite war. It's not popular. How many people have gone out in the streets with their Ukrainian flags? Stop. And continue the war. Arm Ukraine. That's never happened. Never happened because this is an elite war.
That's right. And then, as this week's U.S. government actions further demonstrate, Russia is using entities such as the U.S.-sanctioned Social Design Agency, ANO Dialogue, state media, RT, to covertly amplify and stoke domestic divisions and push for Russia's preferred election outcomes.
And those are?
And those are exactly. So so they were sowing divisions. Now we're back to the preferred election outcome. RT has built and used networks of US and other Western personalities to create and disseminate Russia-friendly narratives while trying to mask the content in authentic American free speech. Now, all of those internet influencers, not one of them has any time for Russia. They have no interest at all in Russia, and they don't particularly, some of them are explicitly very anti-Russian, like this guy Tim Pool, but Dave Rubin. So that's what. Well, they're disseminating Russia-friendly narratives. So it's a friendly towards Russia, even if they themselves don't even like Russia.
Well, I mean, it's a test here. The claim, the Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 has context. There's a context for that. There was a failed diplomatic effort to avoid the conflict. Well, That's a very defensible position,
Right,
George. Okay.
right.
Is is that Kremlin friendly? Well, I suppose so, but it has nothing. The fact that it is friendly one way or another doesn't take away from the fact that it's true.
Exactly. Exactly. Now that's the whole point. They never actually analyze it. Well, is this true? Is this a correct assessment? No, no, no. It's friendly toward Russia. These actors, among others, are supporting Moscow's efforts to influence voter preferences in favor of the former president. So there's the favor of the former president, and diminish the prospects of the vice president through methods such as targeted online influence operations on social media and websites that portray themselves as legitimate.
So they let the cat out of the bag. Diminish the prospects of the vice president. There you go, guys. It's all black and white right there for you. That's why this entire document was generated. Just for that sentence right there. Why? Why should the intelligence community be involved in that? Okay.
That's right. And that's it. And that's why we go to the RussiaGate 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. In each time, the intelligence agencies are involving themselves in a US election. And then you can also say, incidentally, in the midterms with Mueller and his very timely indictments to affect the midterms in 2018, and then in 2022 with a raid at Mar-a-Lago. So at each moment, every time there's an election, the intelligence services are right in the middle of it. So again, they're doing it here. Oh, diminish the prospects of the vice president. Well, what's that to you? Well, why are you getting very worked up about this?
I don't know if I can finesse this here, but I'm going to try. These actors, among others, are supporting the IC's efforts to influence voter preferences in favor of the current vice president against the former president. Right. It's the IC that is telling us what their preferences are. It has nothing to do with Russia's preferences. It's the intelligence community's preference.
Right. That's right. So now here's a report from CNN, and so now they're all the main media outlets are pouncing. We've got them. These are right wing social media influencers who are, of course, all supporting Trump, and they're all being bankrolled by RT. Again, they have no basis for this other than this indictment. They don't know where this money was coming from, who was financing this, and none whatsoever. And it's again very important to remember that they haven't indicted RT. They could have done it. They could have said, if RT is doing these terrible things, well, indict it. Say, let RT have its day in court, and you can then indict. Yeah, they're waging this influence propaganda campaign in the United States. They didn't do it because they know exactly that what RT will do, what Concord Management did to Mueller. They'll send their legal representatives, and they say, all right, let's see the goods. Let's see what you've got in your discovery about these transfer of funds. They don't want to do that. So that's why they just, they pick on these two Russians who are presumably in Russia. Therefore, they're never going to show up in court. But they don't want to. They clearly do not want to go down that path. They haven't, incidentally, indicted the owners of Tenet Media. There's Lauren Chen and her husband, the principal one and principal two. So again, they don't want to go down there because, again, that would be a little embarrassing, because they would also want to see, well, let's see, what's your evidence for that? This is about this 10 million that was coming from RT.
Well, that's why, George. I don't think it's going to go any further.
No, I don't think so either. So how some of the biggest right-wing social media stars became unwitting mouthpieces of Russian propaganda. That's a nice CNN headline. And then they're not on any of the major television networks, but they have millions of viewers. Now the Justice Department is alleging that some of the biggest stars in right-wing social media were unwittingly part of a sinister Russian operation to influence the 2024 election. And there you already have it. We're now writing with RussiaGate 3.0 in the media, CNN. The personalities weren't directly named or accused of wrongdoing by the Justice Department, But court documents unsealed Wednesday revealed Russian state media producers funneled nearly $10 million to an unnamed Tennessee-based online media company. The company, identified by CNN as Tenet Media, boasts a slate of high-profile right-wing commentators and as talent like Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Lauren Southern, Taylor Hanson, Matt Christensen, and Dave Rubin, collectively boasting millions of followers across social media platforms. Now, some of these people, I think, have behaved in a very weak and craven way. They said, "Hey, we were duped. Oh, if I'd known something, about that this was Russia, I've never had anything to do with it." Whereas I should have said, "I'd like to see some evidence for any of these claims." But instead, a number of them, like Tim Pool and Benny Johnson, have seemed to accepted unquestioningly these DOJ claims.
Yeah, they believe the state, even though they're critics of it. Okay,
exactly, for all their supposed anti-establishment alt media credentials. And then the secret payments pull back the curtain, pull back the curtain on some of the most popular right-wing personalities who were paid millions of dollars by the Kremlin without their knowledge, according to the Justice Department, to promote conservative narratives that furthered Russian interests. I always like conservative narratives that further. They criticize Russia, but somehow that furthered Russian interests.
There's no evidence presented that anyone was paid by the Kremlin. I'm sorry.
No, that's the point. You see, this is what happens with the media. They already immediately start jumping the gun and going way, way beyond anything that's even in the indictment. Oh, they were paid by the Kremlin. And while the influencer, podcaster, and online content creator space is booming, the indictment shows how open the new media ecosystem is to infiltration, where independent creators operate with few guardrails and little transparency.
Yeah, so, and when we know from the Twitter files, and other investigations, all of the major social media companies are full of former IC individuals. Okay, so who's controlling these spaces here? Okay, right. This is what's the infiltration? Well, right. Yeah, there's a lot of infiltration going on. Okay, right. And a lot of these people, I suppose it'll be a chapter, it'll be written right now, but these popular personalities, I won't say right-wing personalities. I mean, how many of them are paid to echo ideas? We don't know. Right. And you don't have to tell people, it's not illegal.
Right. That's right. And then it says the commentators assembled by Tenet boasted more than 6 million YouTube subscribers, but their influence has extended well beyond the Google-owned video platform.
Pool, that's a poke at Google. Yep, go ahead.
That's right. Pool, known for donning a black beanie on his broadcasts, has used his show to host far-right extremists, including Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio and Jack Posobiec. Notice that they put them together. Now, Tarrio is actually currently in prison over January the 6th, but they put them together. And then earlier this year, Pool interviewed former President Donald Trump on his podcast. Notice how they put all these names together. Johnson, this is Benny Johnson, who boasts nearly 2.4 million subscribers on YouTube and is a former chief creative officer for the right-wing activist group Turning Points USA, interviewed Donald Trump Jr. on the Tenet platform in February.
I mean, apparently these people are very popular, and we're looking at a number of individuals. Who else did they interview?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. I mean, that's right. That's the point. They have a huge following. And Trump goes on these social media platforms. Hey, you got a few million subscribers, so yeah, and that's what you can do. But who else do they interview? Russian narratives on display. According to the indictment, employees from Russian state media outlet RT allegedly funded and directed the company, hoping to plug into the commentators' vast network of fans to exploit divisive narratives that achieved the Kremlin's goals. But they didn't plug into the.
What is the content?
No, that's right. But they didn't plug into the content. These people already had their base. They were just simply presenting or providing Tenet Media with additional content. But they weren't plugging into those. They already had their subscriber base, so that Tenet Media didn't have access to that. Divisive narratives that achieve the Kremlin's goals. Much of the partnership appeared to simply amplify what were already simpatico views between the Kremlin and the company's influencers. Yeah, examples. That's why Tim Pool was always attacking Russia.
One example, please, just one example.
Exactly. According to intelligence agencies, the Kremlin has sought to boost Donald Trump's candidacy, questioning the West's support for Ukraine and criticizing elements of the LGBTQ movement. Well, that's very strange because Dave Rubin himself is gay and openly gay, and is married to a man. So I don't know how you can square that. They were bankrolling him to attack the LGBTQ movement. So and then he goes on. Other narrative pushed by the Russian-paid influencers fit in with the Kremlin's goals, such as fear-mongering about migrant gangs and boosting the candidacy of Trump. So again, they can just go from one to another, sowing divisions and boosting the candidacy of Trump.
But those divisions are already homegrown.
Right.
You don't need any outsider to inflame it.
Right. Then says, in 2022, Poole said that while a mass shooting attack on a Colorado LGBTQ nightclub where a man killed 5 people and injured 19 was wrong, he suggested that the club, which had held all ages drag brunch, meant it supported grooming children. Well, that's an argument. I don't know what's that got to do with Russia. I mean, you can agree or disagree with that argument, but then I don't know. It says all ages drag brunch. I mean,
I just think that people at CNN have just some kind of journalistic autism because I don't see the connection why that paragraph is in there.
Right. That's right. It says, we shouldn't tolerate pedophiles grooming kids. Poole posted on X. Club Q had a grooming event. How to prevent the violence and stop the grooming? The notion that LGBTQ people are pedophiles or groomers is an extreme homophobic conspiracy theory that is often floated in far-right circle as a justification for anti-LGBTQ
What does
buses.
this have to do with the indictment?
Nothing at all, and it's an awful lot of editorializing and very, very little news content here. So this is the New York Times. Russia secretly worms its way into America's conservative media. Notice the language, worms its way into America's conservative media. Federal prosecutors say Russia paid an American media company to push pro-Kremlin messages from social media influencers. And then
it's really kind of interesting is that this is really much more a gambit to divide the people in the ecosphere of conservative commentator. This is really, I mean, this is the bonus of RussiaGate for this. It's
exactly that's exactly it. So they, back in RussiaGate 1.0, they went after Trump's followers. They targeted Carter Page, then they targeted Papadopoulos and Paul Manafort. Now they've got this bigger thing. Oh, we're going after conservative media, but they have to then acknowledge, yeah, but none of them even they all say, and even the indictment says they had no idea that this was coming from RT. At least that's the allegation. It's coming from RT. So Russia worms its way into American conservative media. Yeah, but they, none of them had any idea that this had anything to do with Russia.
Well, okay, you may be more aware of these people than I am, but so this Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, and Dave Rubin, when these 3 names are shown to me. I don't know what their position on Russia,
No,
Ukraine. I have no idea what it might be. Okay. Dave Rubin, I used to watch him years ago. I have a pretty good idea. He's that kind of this fake libertarian
that's
guy.
right. That's right.
Tim Pool, I know he wears that funny beanie.
Exactly the herd, and he's he's a skateboarder. I mean, that's basically what he is. I mean, that's. I think it's his great passion is skateboarding. I think he started off life as a skateboarder.
And the more speech there is, the better speech is. Okay, that's really my mantra. Okay, but again, you mentioned these three high-profile influencers. I don't really know what their positions, how they would be even remotely connected to the Kremlin. But
Right, right, exactly. In early 2022, a young couple from Canada, Lauren Chen and Liam Donovan, registered a new company in Tennessee that went on to create a social media outlet called Tenet Media. November 2023, they had assembled a lineup of major conservative social media stars, including Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, and Dave Rubin, to post original content on Tenet's platform. The site then began posting hundreds of videos trafficking in pointed political commentary, as well as conspiracy theories about election fraud, COVID-19, immigration, and Russia's war with Ukraine. I mean, I love the conspiracy theories. I mean, as opposed to your conspiracy theories, which is that Russia is behind everything. There's a Russian under every bed. Anything at all is always originates from Moscow.
Well, it's always interesting that traffickers of real conspiracy theories pointing fingers at alleged conspiracy.
Exactly. That were then promoted across the spectrum of social media from YouTube, TikTok, and so on. It was all federal prosecutors now say a covert Russia influence operation. On Wednesday, the Justice Department accused two Russians of helping to orchestrate this $10 million. The disclosures reflect the growing sophistication of the Kremlin's long-standing efforts to shape American public opinion and advance Russia's geopolitical. So very, very sophisticated. They always tell us, and again, disclosures, the allegations, not disclosure. Nothing has been disclosed. We haven't seen any documents. We've just listening to allegations, and we know that this is never going to go to trial. They're not going to put these two Russians on trial. I mean, they're not going to come back to America.
What about the two co-founders of Tenet? Do they get to keep the money?
That's right. And that's very interesting that they haven't been invited. And then this is the classic. A long-standing efforts to shape American public opinion and advance Russia's geopolitical goals, which include, according to American intelligence assessments, the election of former President Donald J. Trump in November. Never mind that Putin, whether he's trolling or not trolling, but Putin has said time and again, no, we're backing the Democrats. You can say that he's just having fun, but you have no business just simply keep repeating that the Russians are supporting Trump when you don't have any evidence for it.
Well, this goes back to my original critique of RussiaGate 1, is that this is all for internal consumption. They're not interested in the facts and realities beyond this ecosystem that they want to manipulate and deceive. It has nothing to do with, well, what does the Russia's position? I mean, you can call it propaganda all you want, but what did they say? See, this is completely shut off from reality. And like I said, the bonus in RussiaGate 3.0 is to go after the conservative ecosystem, and it looks like they're going to pull it off.
Exactly, and then of course it becomes all-encompassing because now you attack all of the conservatives. They're all somehow in on this Russia operation.
You were on Tim Pool's podcast.
Exactly, you were on Tim Pool, and a lot of them have appeared on Tim Pool's show. In 2016 and 2020, Russia employed armies of internet trolls, fake accounts, and bot farms to try to reach American audiences with debatable success.
Yeah, but this is all old news, and it's all been debunked.
Exactly, and that's really the point. you know, it's so shameless. New York Times, the Washington Post, they collected Pulitzer Prizes for their RussiaGate investigation, which was all crap. There was nothing in it. You had absolutely no evidence whatsoever of anything. You don't have any evidence that the DNC server was hacked by the Russians. You have no evidence that any of that information was passed on to WikiLeaks. You have no evidence that Carter Page had any dealings with the Russian government, and that had anything to do with Trump. Every single aspect of that whole RussiaGate saga, including that strange woman who wanted a meeting in Trump Tower to talk about
child adoption.
yeah, exactly, about child adoption. You know, the meeting, which lasted 5 minutes because they had no idea what she was on about.
Well, and Don Jr. message it, I'm out of here.
Exactly. That's what the hell is she on about? They had no idea. And so all of these ingredients, not one of them was there any basis for it, and yet they're still going on about this. Oh, Russia's interference in the 2016 election. The operation that prosecutors described this week shows a pivot to exploiting already established social media influence, who in this case generated as 16 million views on Tenet's YouTube channel. And as we said before, that's just nothing.
It's not that much.
It's nothing. I mean, given how many videos they produced, and given that they already have a major social media presence, it's nothing. Most viewers were presumably unaware, as the influencers themselves said they were, that Russia was paying for it, although we're still unaware of this. This indictment, which landed like a bombshell in the country's conservative media ecosystem, like a bombshell, more like a kind of a paper ball.
Yeah, thump.
Yeah, that's right. Also underscored the growing ideological convergence between President Vladimir Putin's Russia and significant portion of the Republican Party since Mr. Trump's rise to political power.
This is just cheap McCarthyism. It's so disgusting, George.
It is disgusting. That's exactly the right word. Is disgusting. There's a convergence. What ideological convergence? What would just spell that out? What is this ideological convergence? But they try to do this smearing because they, well, none of them have anything to do with Russia. They've all been critical of Russia. So that means, but you don't want to abandon this argument. Oh, there's this ideological convergence. The Kremlin has long sought to exploit divisions on both sides of the American political spectrum, but contentious conservative voices provide ample fodder for its own propaganda, especially when it involves criticisms of the Biden administration, or more broadly, the country's foreign policy, including support for Ukraine in its war against Russia. So it's really all about, it's all about discrediting all opposition to this ridiculous, idiotic war
on left and right.
That's right. That's right. So it's just basically delegitimize. Oh yeah, of course this is just Russia. Russia somehow paying you, or you've appeared with these people. It's just it's just a delegitimization of speech that they don't like. The indictment detailed the lengths Russia went to try to make Tenet a player in the country's political discourse, while obfuscating the fact that it was footing the bill.
We have no evidence of it.
No evidence, and you keep saying this. I mean, so, they just keep repeating this, but we don't have any evidence, and we're never going to get the evidence.
Well, it could be the other way around, that Tenet was looking for money, and they came across two people that say, well, I might, foot the bill. Let's talk. Let's have a meeting, okay? I mean, it could be completely reversed.
It could be, and there could be, the I think the quite realistic possibility that the whole thing was a deep state operation, that it's actually American government money that was being funneled into Tenet Media in order to set these people up. So set them up and say, yeah, hey,
where's Kostya? Where's Lena?
It's like exactly that.
That's
right, exactly. I mean, because, when we recall RussiaGate 1.0 and 2.0, there was nothing Russian about it. Not Russia didn't do anything. It was all actions taken by the U.S. government. They initiated the Crossfire Hurricane. They initiated the whole story about the Hunter Biden laptop.
And 9.7 million, that's chump change.
Right.
Chump change.
Right. That's right. I think it's very likely, that this money, they start funneling this money. And then, people take the money. I mean, no one says no to money. And then say, oh, you took money from Russia. So these payments accounted for 90% of the company's revenue from last October to August. And then Tenet's influencers all describe themselves as victims of the Russian ruse, and at times,
know if it was a Russian ruse.
Exactly. I mean, I think they're very foolish in opening their mouths. They just say, I'd like to see some evidence, which is, I think that would be the sensible thing to do. But instead, some of them be shooting their mouths off, like Tim Pool. Oh, I'm ready to cooperate with the FBI investigation. This is terrible. I was taken for a ride by Russia. I mean, again, you're this anti-establishment skateboarder with this hoodie on your head, and then you buy into this. You believe this crap that the DOJ serves you. They emphasize that they took no direction from Russians, though the indictment details various efforts by the company's sponsors to sow specific narratives, some of which appeared in the content they posted, which itself is ridiculous. I mean, these are people who already have huge followings. They're not going to take any instructions from anyone. I mean, if you already have an enormous internet presence, why should you take any instructions from someone? And then in one instance, Mr. Johnson, a former journalist with 2.4 million subscribers on YouTube, suggested on his own show that Ukraine might have been responsible for a deadly attack at a concert hall in Moscow in March, reflecting a since debunked Russia claim. Who debunked it? I mean, we have never subscribed to the claim, but neither have we seen a debunking of the claim. I mean, they always say those as well. A branch of the Islamic State claimed responsibility. Oh, well, that's the final word on it. Now, if a branch of the Islamic State sent out a tweet saying, yeah, we did it. I did it. I'm responsible. Oh, well, that's good enough for me. Another influencer on Tenet's roster, Lawrence Southern, a far-right Canadian commentator with more than 1.2 million followers, produced a video mocking the Summer Olympics in Paris in July, echoing Russia's efforts to denigrate the games and their French hosts.
I'm sorry, everyone, but the whole world mocked it.
Wow, that's Russian. We got to get someone to mock it. Can we? There just aren't enough people mocking that opening night ceremony. Have you heard of Lawrence Southern?
Yeah, I remember somebody was pushing some kind of immigration video that she had made. I'm scratching my memory right now, but a very attractive woman, very excellent presentation, wonderful voice. I don't think I ever saw it. I just saw a lot of hype about it, but I don't think I ever saw it.
And flush with Russian cash, Tenet certainly compensated some of its influence as well. It paid at least 8.7 million to the top three influencers. According to the indictment, Mr. Rubin received 400,000 a month plus 100,000 signing bonus to produce 4 videos a week on Tenet's YouTube channel. Mr. Poole was paid 100,000 per video, which he produced.
Yeah, but what was the content of? Was it about immigration? Was it about fentanyl? Was it about the
exactly
college?
Right. I no idea. And again, these people are already making a lot of money, so it's not like there's somebody just came off the street. Hey, how would you like $100,000, kid? I mean, so presumably those are the kind of fees that they negotiated that they think that they were entitled to. I mean, to me, it seems ridiculously excessive. But But and again, you know,
I'm sorry, George, but that's why I believe that this was probably an op. Okay.
I think so. I think so too. I agree. Yeah.
$400,000.
That's an awful lot of money for not a great deal of work. Tenet appears to have ceased operations since Wednesday. YouTube, in a statement on Thursday evening, said it had taken down its account on the platform, along with 4 others associated with Ms. Chen. Notice how YouTube immediately jumps in. You know, rather than wait, well, let's wait a little bit for the evidence to come in.
We've all learned there's no due process on YouTube.
No, that's right. And you remember when YouTube takes down your video, that's gone. That's never coming back. You know, so all of your work, all that content that you produced, you don't have access to it anymore. No one gets to see it again. So that's it. And
we got about 5 more minutes. Okay, so we can start to wrap this up.
Okay. All right. And then she also produced a podcast on Blaze Media and served as a contributor to Turning Points.
Web. No, yes, here we go.
That's right. That's right. And again, notice how Blaze Media also immediately says, "Oh, Lauren Chen was an independent contractor whose contract has been terminated." Again, very nice. You know, you just terminate. You know, that's not much due process here. Not much. You know, the let's wait a little bit and find out the more evidence. Anyway, and again here you can see the Washington Post, YouTube takes down right-wing channels linked to DOJ Russia indictments, and so on. So, and again, Washington Post, Russia's election influence efforts show sophistication. Officials, I know they all repeat the same talking points. Great, the sophistication.
I don't see it yet, but anyway.
No, I haven't. I see it. Well, that's right. The Russian government's covert efforts to sway the 2024 presidential election are more advanced than in recent years. But nothing that we've seen so far indicates anything that suggests that they're trying to sway the 2024 presidential election. I mean, I thought they were asking these people producing these videos, but the goal, as we were reading earlier, they want people to accept Russia pro-Russian talking points. So they want the things that matter to the Russian government. Now they suddenly switch and said, oh, they're trying to sway the 2024 presidential election. So they can't quite make up this. So what is Russia trying to do here? And then anyway, Moscow is targeting U.S. swing states in particular. This is an official said. We looked at that. There's nothing there to say about the swing states. This is all, they just make this stuff up about Moscow is targeting U.S. swing state, using artificial intelligence to more quickly and convincingly create fake content to shape the outcome in favor of former president.
Well, the last time we were told about fake content, it was real content. And that's why they stabbed Joe Biden in the back.
Okay. That's right. That's right. But anyway, that's that's the we looked at the indictment and the DOJ announcement about the foreign interference, and then we've got the media which lapped this up. Not 1 ounce of skepticism, and say, well, I'd like to see a little bit of evidence. No one thinking, oh no. Clearly, yes, obviously this is what the Russians were doing.
Obviously, what they've done is they've dropped this, and they want everybody to chew on it, and then everyone's going to start pointing fingers. Was I on Tim Pool's show?
Right.
About Lauren Sullivan. Did I say something good about her? See, this is what they do. This is, and I don't think it's going to go any further. Okay, no. Certainly they're not going to indict the 2 Russians. Okay, right. Because of extradition.
Well, they're indicted, but they're not going to be on trial. I mean, they're never. Okay, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, sorry. And again, it's going to be important. They have not done. They didn't make Mueller's mistake of indicting RT, because the whole thing is about RT. But they haven't said anything. They have decided not to do it because they don't want to do it. Mueller. I mean, when Concord Management, they just showed up with their attorney. And what happened is that, well, we'd like to see some discovery. Show us what you got. Show us the documents for all this election interference that we're supposed to have done. And Mueller immediately moved to dismiss the case, and the case was immediately dismissed. I mean, because they didn't have anything. So the same thing happened here.
Well, George and I were wondering how RussiaGate would reappear. Now it's officially RussiaGate 3.0. And I must admit the ingenuity of the people behind this, I compliment them. They've come up with a different script to keep viewers involved and fearful. So, you know, hats off to them. I wonder how many Pulitzers will be awarded for this one here. And it just shows, in my mind, and this is just my own personal opinion, this is just another IC op.
I think so too. I think so too.
Right,
I'm
okay.
not buying just Russia.
I'm not buying this one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. This is our Sunday wrap. Are we doing a live stream tomorrow,
We're doing
George?
a live stream tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Please join us. Come with comments, criticisms, suggestions, and best of all, if you have some already questions prepared, you know, so that when we start, you know, we can already begin to address all of the questions and issues that you have. So looking forward to it very much. 10 a.m. Eastern time, and then on Tuesday, it's solo 3 p.m. Eastern time. Please join us, and then think about those hounds and you know how hungry they are, you know, and they just salivating, you know, all the time. They're just you know foaming at the mouth because there's not enough food laid on for them.
All right, everybody. This is a Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com and see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. All the best. Bye bye.